Imagine a man who believed that existence itself was not a gift, but a curse. A man who argued that life was not defined by joy or meaning, but by suffering. An endless striving that never brings satisfaction. That man was Arthur Schopenhauer, often called the darkest philosopher in history. But here's the strange part. In his darkness, many people find an unexpected kind of light. Schopenhauer was born in 1788 in Danzig, Prussia, now Gdańsk, Poland. His life was marked early by tragedy and turbulence. His father, a wealthy merchant, instilled in him a love for travel and culture, but also a restless dissatisfaction. When Schopenhauer was just 17, his father either fell or perhaps threw himself into a canal and drowned. This death would set the tone for Schopenhauer's worldview. He grew to believe that suffering was not an accident in human life, but its very essence. To him, life was defined by an unstoppable force, what he called the will. The will for Schopenhauer was not some personal desire or individual ambition. It was deeper, more primal. It was the blind, irrational force that drives all living beings to survive, to consume, to reproduce. You can think of it as nature's endless hunger, a hunger that can never truly be satisfied. Humans, with our ability to think and imagine, suffer even more than other animals. Because unlike them, we are not only hungry, we are aware that we will always be hungry. We dream of happiness, of peace, of fulfillment. But each time we reach one goal, the will creates another, and so we suffer. This, Schopenhauer argued, is the real human condition. To want, to strive, to never be satisfied. If this sounds dark, it's because it is. He believed optimism was not only false, but absurd. Life swings like a pendulum, he wrote, between pain and boredom. Pain when we lack what we want. Boredom when we finally get it. It's no wonder then that Schopenhauer earned the reputation of being the ultimate pessimist. But here's where it gets interesting. If life is suffering, if the will never stops tormenting us, what can we do? Schopenhauer offered 3 possible escapes. The first was aesthetic contemplation. Through art, music, and literature, we can temporarily step outside the demands of the will. In those rare moments of beauty, we are not hungry, not striving, just observing. For him, music was the highest of the arts, because it spoke directly to the soul, beyond words. The second escape was compassion. Despite his bitterness, Schopenhauer argued that kindness to others is one of the only ways to transcend the selfish drive of the will. By recognizing the suffering of others as our own, we break free, if only briefly, from isolation. And the third escape was perhaps the most radical: denial of the will. This meant rejecting worldly desires, renouncing ambition, and embracing a kind of ascetic life, similar to Buddhist monks who turn away from pleasure to seek peace in nothingness. At first, Schopenhauer's philosophy was ignored. While Hegel was filling lecture halls in Berlin, Schopenhauer taught at the same time in the same city, to almost empty rooms. He resented this deeply, mocking Hegel as a fraud, and growing bitter at the world's indifference to him. But decades later, his writings would explode in influence. Thinkers, artists, and writers, from Nietzsche to Tolstoy, Wagner to Freud, all drew inspiration from Schopenhauer's grim but profound view of life. Even today, when people face anxiety, depression, or the emptiness of modern life, Schopenhauer's words feel strangely familiar. Because in some sense, his philosophy is not about despair, but about honesty. We live in a culture obsessed with happiness. Every day we're bombarded with promises. If you buy this, if you achieve that, if you change yourself in this way, then you'll be happy. But Schopenhauer cuts through the illusion. He tells us, no, happiness is not the default, suffering is. And maybe, by accepting this, we stop chasing a fantasy and begin seeing life as it is. And paradoxically, that honesty can bring relief. Because once we stop expecting life to be perfect, we can start appreciating its small, fleeting moments of beauty. The smile of a friend, the sound of a violin, the sunlight on a winter morning. These things are fragile. They don't erase suffering, but they shine brighter because of it. So was Arthur Schopenhauer really the darkest philosopher in history? Maybe, but in his darkness, he illuminated something that many of us spend our whole lives avoiding. The truth that life is fragile, painful, and short, and that perhaps the only way to honor it is not to escape it, but to face it fully. Compassion is the basis of morality. Arthur Schopenhauer. That's the terrible, beautiful paradox of Schopenhauer's philosophy. That in a universe where suffering is inescapable, the only true answer is not endless striving, not false optimism, but compassion for ourselves and for each other. Because sometimes, even in the darkest places, light still exists.